All right. Sorry for the delay, everybody. It's not loading for some reason. Good to go now. All right. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. Should be below the video if you're on a smaller screen, to the right of the video if you're on a larger screen. I think we got some questions in there already, which is good. All right. So we will be starting here with Ingos. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Ingos. So Ingo says, I heard a lot of different opinions about the initial move in the downswing, left knee, left shoulder. What is your initial move in the downswing? And in what way do you move the left shoulder? So basically, it all starts from the ground up, right? So what starts the downswing is pressure in the lead foot. I have to have pressure in my lead foot to get everything sequencing correctly in the downswing. So that's really what starts the downswing. Now, as far as the left shoulder is going to move down and then up and around, right? So in my start of my downswing, it's going to move. I'm going to be getting pressure here. My left shoulder is going to be moving down, and then it's going to move up and around, right? So if you look from this angle again, it's going to be moving down and then up and around in a diagonal. All right, so that's how the left shoulder is working in the start of the downswing. All right, let's keep going. So Jim S says, do you have any experience with the I-line swing point laser recommended by Clay? If so, can you say or show where it should be positioned? I can't seem to find the sweet spot where I can see both lasers. If I can see the bottom one, the top one is blocked by my hand, and vice versa. No, I honestly, I don't have any experience with it. Sorry, Jim. I haven't messed around with it. So sorry, I can't offer any help there. I'm not even sure. I-line swing point laser. I'm not even sure what that is, if I'm going to be honest with you. Swing point laser. I know I-line has a lot of stuff. I do like a lot of their stuff. I have used some of it, but that's one I haven't used. Sorry about that, Jim. I'd maybe look on their website. They offer quite a few videos for most of their stuff on there. Maybe if it's a newer product, they may not have a lot of videos on it. But I know that if you go to their website, typically they're going to have some videos on there to help you use it. Sorry, I wish I could help. Again, I'm not familiar with it. So Scott K says, could you please explain regarding TrackMan the correlation between club path and face to path and how it indicates a draw or a slice? So basically, basic ball flight laws. The ball is going to start mostly in the direction of the club face. And when we say club face, I'm talking about the direction the club face is pointing at impact. So TrackMan refers to that as face angle, right? So face angle is the direction the club face is pointing relative to the target at impact. So if my face is 2 degrees open to the target, it'd be positive 2 degrees. If my face is closed to the target, that would be negative 2 degrees, right? So it's relative to the target. And the ball is going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, right? The reason why I say mostly is because it's about 80% of the direction of the club face. The path of the club does play a role in the start line, but not near as much as what people think. It's about 80 to 85% of the club face direction. It's somewhere in that range depending on the loft of the club. The higher the loft of the club, the less the face plays a role, but it's still mostly the face. It's going to be like, it might be like 75, 80% for a wedge. For a driver, it's going to be more like 85% the direction of the club face where the ball's going to start. So the ball's going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, and then it's going to curve away from the club path. And the club path is the out in or in to out, right to left, right direction of the club through impact relative to the target. So, for example, if my club is swinging in to out, right, forward, positive 4 degrees, it would be swinging. If I'm a batter, right, standing at home plate, my path is going in the direction of first base. That'd be a positive club path. If it's going in the direction of third base, it's going to be a negative club path, right? So it's going to start in the direction of the club face and curve away from the club path. So let's go over an example. If my club face is, let's say my club face is negative 3 degrees, right? So that means that my club face is 3 degrees closed relative to the target. So it's 3 degrees closed, but then my club path, let's say that my club path is positive 5 degrees, meaning I'm swinging in to out 5 degrees. Well, my face is closed to my path 8 degrees. My face is closed to my path 8 degrees. So if I'm a right-handed golfer and my face is closed to my path 8 degrees and my face is 3 degrees to the left, that means that my ball is going to mostly start 3 degrees to the left. It's going to start a little bit toward the target, because it's going to be like 75 to 85% somewhere in there in that direction. So it's going to be more. It's going to be like 1 degree left. 2 degrees left is where that ball is going to start, and then it's actually going to curve even more to the left because the face is close to the path. My path is in that direction, so the ball is going to curve away from my path, right? So the ball is going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, and then it's going to curve away from the path. The bigger the difference you have between your face and your path, the more curvature you're going to have on the ball. The smaller the difference you have, the less curvature you're going to have on the ball. If your face and your path are in the same direction, the ball is going to not going to have any curvature on it. Now the things get a little bit more complicated here, so stick with me. And by no means do you need to know all of this stuff, right? That's what I'm here for. You don't need to memorize all this stuff. This is mainly for instructors, but it could be good to understand it, especially if you're a higher level player, for sure. But all of what I just said is assuming you hit the ball in the center of the club face. If you do not hit the ball in the center of the club face, things get even more complicated, right? So if you hit the ball on the toe, the ball will start more to the right than it normally would. Then it will tend to draw more or fade less. And I say that as a right-handed golfer. It'd be opposite for a left-handed golfer. But off the toe, the ball will start more to the right than it normally would, then tend to draw more or fade less. And the reason for that is when you hit the ball off the toe, the face will twist open. So if you imagine my hand is the club face, my fingers are more the toe of the club, right? If I'm hitting right there, the club face is twisting open, right? And when that happens, the ball will start more to the right. And what will also happen is something called gear effect. That's the reason why the ball will draw more or fade less, because when I'm hitting the ball, right, that ball is compressed on the face for like a split second. It's compressed. It's like pancaked on the face. And when that happens, if it's not in the center of the face, then the ball will tend to roll toward the center of the face, right? So if you imagine my fist, I'm hitting the toe of the club, right? And that ball is going to roll toward the center of the face, and that's what puts that draw spin on there. But if you hit a ball with a big slice swing and you hit it off the toe, it may straighten it out, right? Because it may fade less than it normally would or draw more than it normally would. Now, when you hit the ball off the heel, you're going to have the opposite effect. The face is going to close, right? So if you imagine, the heel of my hand here, basically, right? If the ball hits there, the face is going to close and the ball will start more to the left than it normally would, and it will tend to fade more or draw less, right? So now, obviously, if you go really extreme with it, let's say you go really extreme heel, that's a hosel strike, right? So that's going to shoot off to the right. And if you go really extreme with the toe, you may get a toe shank. Forgive me for saying the S word, but you may get a toe shank, and it may shoot off to the right, or it may twist the face open so much that it'll just shoot off to the right, and it won't, and you won't get any gear effect. So like I said, you don't need to know all these things, but it can be good to know. So ball's going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, then curve away from the path. The bigger the difference between the face and the path, the more curvature you're going to have. The closer they are together, the less curvature you're going to have. That's all true, assuming you're going to hit it in the center of the face. If you hit the ball on the toe, the ball will start more to the right than it normally would, then tend to draw more or fade less unless there are extreme circumstances. And if you hit the ball on the heel, the ball will start more to the left than it normally would, then tend to fade more or draw less. I know that's all mouthful, but it is good. It is good to know. If you want to learn more about this kind of stuff, TrackMan actually has an awesome free educational series on their website. So if you just do a Google search for TrackMan University, they may have changed it. I haven't been on there for a while, but it's a free education last I knew. So, and it's pretty cool. They have videos that kind of explain all this stuff, have great visuals of what's going on and things like that. And you learn a lot more than just what I just talked about. They're talking about angle of attack. They're talking about spin. They're talking about there's a lot of different stuff, and you take quizzes. It's interactive at the end. It's very, very good. So it's very well done. So if you want to learn more about ball flight laws and all this stuff, that I would highly recommend you go check that out. So again, just search TrackMan University. Just do a Google search of it, and you'll find what I'm talking about. All right, let's keep going. So Louis says, any way to do the unlimited swing reviews without having social media like Facebook? Yeah, for the unlimited swing reviews, we actually do not use Facebook. We use Facebook for the Ball Striking Masterclass Facebook group, or for the Ball Striking Masterclass, because the Ball Striking Masterclass, what's provided with that, it's more of a community type thing. It's more of a way to share your results, ask your questions, you can get feedback on your swings, but it's not the same as our unlimited swing review program. It's more of helping you work through the Ball Striking Masterclass, with maybe some tips on your swing to help you work through the course. When you do the unlimited swing reviews, it's like getting a one-on-one lesson. It's just online. So you send in your videos. We use an app. It's called V1. I personally, I don't use the app. I use something called Analyzer Golf. So I actually allow my students to email me their swings. I'm just not a big fan of V1 anymore. I've had issues with it, so I don't use it anymore. But if my students want to use it, I still have students that use it, which is fine. And I just take the swings from on there and put them on my app. But yeah, you don't have to have social media. You right now we use V1, or you can email me the videos if you sign up for unlimited swing reviews. Let me check and see. But yeah, you don't have to have Facebook to do unlimited swing reviews. If you're doing the Ball Striking Masterclass and you want to get feedback on your swing, you do have to have Facebook. But yeah, for the unlimited swing reviews, you do not. Let me check and see here. So I do have a spot available. Louis, sorry if I mispronounced your name there. If you want to go grab that, we can get started. Again, you don't have to have a social media. There's a couple other instructors with spots available too. So I'm not going to be offended if you don't want to work with me. That's fine. But yeah, check it out. If you want to sign up, it's click the get a review link at the top of the page. I looked on there. I have one spot available right now. So check it out. All right. So Ingos said, I'm understand at the top of the backswing doorknob, then the move. Do you then hinge the wrist even more in the downswing to get the hands in front of the body? Yeah. So in the start of the downswing, well, the doorknob is the move. That is part of what the move is. So yes, we do want to be lagging the club more as we're coming down, right? So at the top, you're not going to be reaching your full hinge at the top, meaning I'm not going to be hinging the club fully, right? I'm typically not going to be there. I'm going to be fully hinging the club around in this area and then releasing it. So that's a round lead arm parallel to the ground. is where you're going to reach kind of that max hinge area. Typically, you're going to be kind of lagging that club more as you start the downswing. But as you do that, you're also, I wouldn't think of it. You can break anything down into components, right? You can say, okay, I'm doing like 50 different things at once. But it's one move that's broken down into components, right? So the tour players are not swinging the club in 80 different ways, right? They're just swinging the club in one way. It's just you can break everything down into components, right? So basically what's happening here is I'm hinging my wrist, right? This club is shallowing out. So I'm getting this club to kind of work more behind me, right? And then I'm also kind of squaring up the face as I'm coming down. So that's all one thing that's happening, right? But you can break it down into those components. So Scott K says, so wouldn't -3 face angle and +5 path would net 2 degrees positive? No. So because you're going to have, if your face is 3 degrees negative, that's closed, right? So that means my face is 3 degrees that way. If my path is +5, then it's 5 degrees that way. There's an 8-degree difference there. So it wouldn't be a net 2 degrees. Now, if my face was 3 degrees closed, right, and then my path was 5 degrees closed, there would be a 2-degree difference there, right? But not if my path is positive and my face is negative. That whole space in between there is what it would be. Seems counterintuitive. Got it. Thank you. All right. Cool. Sounds like we're on the right page here. All right. So keep the questions coming. We got about 40 minutes or so here. All right. All right. So Ingo says, could you maybe explain one more time the relation between right and left knee in the downswing to stay in posture? The time relation between right and left knee in the downswing to stay in posture. All right. Well, in the start of the downswing, right, we're going to be flexing both of the knees, right? Typically, when I see people coming out of their posture or not staying in their posture, it's because, well, I shouldn't say how their knees are moving when people are coming out of their posture is the legs are straightening out right away, right? So basically, I'm here at the top, and then my knees kind of just straighten out right away, and then because of that, I'm standing up, right? So typically, when we look at the better players, we're going to be at the top of the swing. We're going to flex those knees, right? And by the time that lead arm is parallel, I'm pretty much at my max flex with both my knees, right? And then my lead knee from there is going to start straightening out, and my trail knee is going to start kind of working in like this, right? So that's what's happening there. Now, keep in mind that most people are coming out of their posture not because of how their knees are moving or because of how their hips are moving. It's because they're moving their knees and their hips in that way to help them to hit a functional shot, right? So a big problem that I see all the time is people who are trying to stay in their posture by virtue of just focusing on their legs and hip. Now, there are some people that do need to do that, and I'll explain the situation where that would be the case. But in most situations, most people are coming out of their posture to actually help them hit a good shot. So let me explain what's happening there. When you are coming down steep in the downswing, and this is a majority of recreational golfers are coming down steep in the start of the downswing, meaning this club is more in a vertical position, right? So if this club is more in a vertical position as I'm coming down, if I were to use my knees and my hips properly, the way that we see tour players using their knees and their hips, right? So using their knees and their hips the way that I just talked about, right? Where I'm flexing in my knees and I'm opening up. Well, look, if I'm steep with my club and I go like this and I start to rotate and I go like, look at what this club is doing, right? That club is coming way over the top and chopping down into the ball. And that is not going to lead to good golf shots, right? That's going to lead to, if you even make good contact with the ball, pulls, pull hooks, slices. I mean, you may get lucky and be able to time it up and be able to hit kind of a big slice at the target. But even that, you're going to be cutting across the ball, right? And not hitting the ball as solidly as you could. So most people aren't moving their knees and their hips in the right way or in the way that we see tour players moving them as a solution for them to hit a good shot because of the way that they have the club coming down. So if you look here, if I'm steep in the start of the downswing and then I straighten out my legs and move my hips forward, well, now look what happens to the club. This club is now shallowed out and I can actually hit a functional shot from here, right? I can hit the ball straight. I can hit the ball solid. Now, it's not ideal because I've stood up out of my posture. I've had to kind of throw my arms at the ball and early release the club. And you're going to tend to hit some thin shots. It's going to be harder to control the club face. It's going to be, you're going to be adding loft, not getting as much compression on the ball because you've had to stand up out of it. But I would much rather, I will take the golfer that does that comes down steep, stands up out of it, early releases. I will take that golfer over the golfer that comes down steep, stays in their posture, chops down into it every single time. Because that golfer, the last golfer that has good knee movement and moves their knees and their hips like the pros, but comes down steep, that golfer is going to be lucky to break 100. But the golfer that comes down steep, stands up out of it, and throws the hands at it, that I've seen scratch golfers that do that. Now your swing, now there aren't a lot of them, right? Your swing becomes very dependent on timing, and if you're a good athlete and you have very good hand-eye coordination, you can be a good golfer, right? I played college golf basically doing that, right? So, but I've always been a decent athlete and had pretty decent hand-eye coordination, right? So I've seen lots of golfers been able to do that. So it's not the end of the world. So what you have to look at is, okay, my knees and my hips may not be moving in the right way, but why? Right? Why is that happening? And if you can't figure that out yourself, then I'd recommend working with an instructor doing online unlimited swing reviews or something like that. But most of the time, it's a situation where the club's coming down steep, or it's you not using your knees properly and your hips properly is usually a solution for you. It's usually a golfer solution to hit a good shot, right? If you're hitting functional golf shots and you're looking at your hips and they're not moving the same way a tour player is moving, most likely you're doing that as a solution for a different issue in your swing. And that issue is really what needs to be fixed. And then you can look at, okay, how do I get my knees? Now, a lot of times when you fix the root cause, your knees and your hips respond accordingly because you no longer have to make that solution with your knees and your hips to be able to hit the ball properly. right? So those are just similar things that happen. Now, let's talk about the instance where, okay, we do need to work specifically on how our knees and our hips are working. And that would be for a golfer that is shallowing out the club and is probably over shallowing out the club. So for example, let's say I'm a golfer who I've got this club shallowed out. I got everything working properly, right? But then I kind of stand up out of it and I got this club stuck behind me like this, and then I kind of throw at it. That golfer would definitely benefit from learning how to get the knees and the hips working properly. But those golfers, just in my experience, very few recreational golfers struggle with that. There are some. I have ran into some, but most golfers, if you see their knees not working properly, it's because it's their solution to hit a good shot. It's not because they don't know how to move their knees and their hips. It's because they would probably move their knees and their hips properly if they had the club working down in a better way. So if you're looking at your swing and you see, hey, I'm really extending, my knees are straightening out very, very quickly in the start of the downswing. Look at how steep your club is, right? Look at that portion of your swing, and you'll see, okay, well, I'm doing that to get the club to work from the inside or close to the inside. Some people, they're coming down so steep, they stand up out of it, they're still coming down steep, but they're a lot closer than they would be if they were moving their knees, the way that we see tour players working them. So if you're in that category, I'd recommend working through the 20-minute shallowing fix. And I would venture to say I put money on overwhelming majority of players that struggle with how the knees are working in the downswing. It's not because they don't know how to move their knees. It's because they're moving their knees in a way that allows them to shallow out the club. And we need to shallow out the club in a different way, and that would be working through the 20-minute shallowing fix. So that's what I would check out, 20-minute shallowing fix, to get you on the right track. To get to that course, click the instruction tab, then click the 20-minute shallowing fix, and get started. All right, we got about 30 minutes left here. Keep the questions coming. All right, how do you stop rushing the downswing? Well, most of the time when I see people rushing the downswing, it's because of one or two reasons. It's either because they don't complete their backswing. So they don't really turn their body or turn their shoulders. They don't lift their arms very much. So basically they get about right here, and then they got to think, well, I got to get power and speed from somewhere. So they really try to get that in the very beginning of their swing, and they really rush everything. So if that's what you look like, you're running, you feel like you're really rushing the downswing, I would look at your swing from face on and see, okay, am I letting my hips turn as much as they can? Am I letting my shoulders turn as much as they can? Am I getting my arms kind of up in the air as much as they can? And if you're not, then that would be a big reason. You see, if I get a good big turn, I get my hips turning, I get my shoulders turning, I get my arms up, I just feel like I have all day to get to the ball. And I feel like I have so much space to be able to create speed. And there's no feeling to need to rush the downswing. So that's a big reason why I see a lot of people rushing the downswing. So if that is you, we actually have one of the pieces of the top speed golf system is the power turn. And this is key in not only creating power, right? A lot of people just think of the power turn as it's all about creating power, but it's also about the sequencing of your swing, right? And if you're rushing your downswing, you're not going to get great contact usually. You're going to typically chunk and thin and not really make very good contact usually. And a lot of times you'll come over the top as well because you're really trying to drive things with the upper body. And when you do that, when you really try to get things going with the upper body, you'll tend to come over the top as well. And that will lead to pulls, slices, pull hooks, just poor strikes in general. So that's why the power turn is one of the most important pieces of the top speed golf system, because like I said, not only is it important for just hitting the ball farther, which is one of the number one things to play better golf, right? When you hit the ball farther, it's just easier to play golf. But it's also just the sequencing, the timing, how well you make contact is also predicated on your power turn as well. So if you're struggling with that, rushing the downswing, I definitely look at how much you're turning and get that working a lot better, because that can really help with the rushing of the downswing. So to get to the power turn course, again, this is part of the top speed golf system. This is included with your membership. Click the instruction tab and then click the top speed golf system, go to the power turn course and start working through those drills. Now, one of the other reasons that I see that's very common, and this would be for people, and it could be a combination of these things, but one other common thing that I see is people don't get a proper shift to their lead side, right? So they get up to the top of the swing and then they start the downswing with their pressure, with most of their pressure still on their back foot. And when I say pressure, I'm talking about the force that I'm putting into the ground with my back foot here, right? If I'm still on my back foot, I haven't transferred any of my pressure to my lead foot or started that pressure shift to my lead foot. Well, I'm on my back foot here and I don't have anything to start the downswing except with my upper body. And that's where the rushing of the downswing feeling comes, is where we're just starting the downswing by really with the upper body. And ideally what we want to do is we want to have the downswing started from the ground up. And the only way to do that is to get that pressure in the lead foot. So we want to get up to the top. And as I'm moving up to the top, this is really as far right as I want to be in the swing, right? This is as far right as I want to be. About halfway back, I actually want to start pushing to my lead side and start getting pressure moving into my lead side. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to be entirely on my lead side once I get to the top of the swing. What it means is I'm moving pressure into my lead side as I'm getting to the top of the swing. At the top of the swing, it's usually going to be around 50-50. You might even still have a little bit more on your trail side, but it's going to be pretty close to 50-50, right? So I'm at address. I'm going to be around 50-50. I'm going to start my backswing here. I'm going to have most of my pressure on my trail side at this point in the swing, about halfway back. And then as I'm getting up to the top, I'm going to start recentering, as they call it, right? I'm going to start getting my pressure starting to move back to my lead side. And as I get up to the top of the swing, I'm going to be close to 50-50, but I'm continuing to add pressure to that lead foot. And that's going to allow me to start the downswing from the ground up. So a great drill to help you to get that feeling is something that's called the step drill. You may be seeing a lot of variations with this, but a very simple way to do this step drill is to start with the feet pretty close together, and you apply pressure into that trail foot, swing that club back, and as you're swinging that club back, I want you to start stepping forward. Oops, stepped on the golf ball. I want you to start stepping forward and get that foot on the ground as you're completing your backswing, and then from there, you're getting a lot of pressure into that lead foot. You push into the ground, and you turn all the way through into the full finish. Start doing some of those step drills if you feel like you're rushing the downswing, because get that full turn as you're going back, get that pressure into the ground, and turn through it. And you're not going to feel like you're rushing the downswing anymore. You're going to feel like you're going to be able to create a lot of power from pushing into the ground and unraveling yourself into the ball. So work on that drill and then work that into a normal practice swing. I just want to get that same feeling that I did in the step drill in my practice swing here. So I'm going to go to my trail side. I'm going to imagine here in my mind, like I'm stepping forward, right? Even though my foot's not off the ground, it's still on the ground. But I'm going to imagine like I'm stepping forward and my momentum's moving forward, and then I'm going to push into the ground and turn all the way through it. Then work through that with a golf ball, and you'll be in business. You won't really feel like your sequence of your swing will feel a lot better if you work on that drill. All right, so let's keep going. We got some questions that came in as I was talking about that, which is good. All right, so FK says, for the online swing review, what is the strategy for sending in videos? For example, after getting feedback, when do you send in the next videos? After you think you've got it, or after a certain length of time? Well, it really just depends on what you're working on. So typically what I do is I tell the student exactly what I'm going to be looking for in the next videos, right? So I give them specific what they need to do, and then what I would like to see on video in the next one. So ideally, it would be, okay, you get what I'm looking for in the next videos, and then we keep working forward from there. But sometimes there's going to be instances where you've done everything you can, right? You've tried, you've gone out there, you worked on this 2 or 3 nights or whatever it might be, and for the life of you, you just can't get it. There's something you're not able to get. And if in that situation, I tell people, tell me, send your videos in with you attempting to do it, right? And then let me know, okay, well, what was going wrong? Like why weren't we able to get into this position? And then we work from there, right? So that's basically the way that it goes. Now, that's the way that I do it. Not all the instructors do it the exact same way, right? I don't know exactly what Robin's or Michael's or Chris's philosophy is when it comes to it, but that's the way that I do it. So I tell the student exactly what I'm going to be looking for in the next videos, and they need to do their best to try to accommodate that. And once they've achieved that, ideally they would send the videos reflecting those changes. And if they really tried hard to get it, and when I say try hard, that doesn't mean you tried it for 10 minutes, right, and then it didn't work. Like, I want you to actually, a lot of times sleeping on it, working on it one time and then kind of sleeping on it and then trying it again. That's what we need to be doing. So that's because if you send videos after you tried it, the feedback really isn't going to be much different, right? Because it's just not, you haven't really actually tried it that much. You know what I mean? So I would look at it almost like if you were getting an in-person lesson, right? And you were working on something, but you weren't able to get it. Well, the instructor is going to tell you, hey, keep working at it, keep trying to do it, give it another try, keep working through it. And then eventually, if you're really having trouble with it, they may intervene and do something. And that's kind of the same way we want to do it with the unlimited swing reviews, right? We don't want to just give it one swing. It didn't work. What do we got to do now? And I was like, try again. Keep trying. That's kind of the way that we work through it. All right. So Dan S says, I noticed from my driver hits with foot powder, I had a pattern that started from the bottom toe to the top center of the club at a 45-degree angle. Any idea why I'm hitting pattern would be like that? A toe strike can be caused by a lot of things. There's no way for me to really know without seeing your swing. I'd say most common is a steep and over the top swing, because when you think about it, when you swing steep and over the top a little bit, right? So I'm kind of doing this. The sweet spot of the club is working toward me as I come through contact, and that's going to tend to bring more more toe strikes into play, right? So if I had one guess, it would be that, but it's hard to say. You could be coming down perfectly on plane and still be hitting it off the toe, or even from the inside and be hitting it off the toe. So there's no way to really know for me unless I see your swing. But what I will say is the one thing you can do, no matter whether you're coming over the top or whatever it is, the one thing you can do is change your intention. If you're generally hitting the ball off the toe and low on the face, then I'd be trying to hit it high and off the heel on every single swing. And what will happen, you're just changing your intention, right? Right now, you're trying to hit the ball in the center of the face, but it's low and toe, right? So you need to change your intention to hitting it high and heel, and that will get the strike more in the center of the face. more often. And then you just keep doing that. You keep swinging with that intention. See, a lot of people don't want to do that because they feel like, I don't want to do that. I want something that's just going to fix it, right? But it's not the way that it works, right? Not always, anyway. You know, and people have the sense, well, I don't want to feel like I'm hitting it off the heel my whole life. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to adapt, and you're going to eventually actually start hitting the ball off the heel. And at that point, you're essentially calibrated, right? You've calibrated yourself, and you can go back to the center of the face. So what I tell you that I know what works to get that strike more in the center of the face is to try to hit the ball, change your intention to hitting it, really commit to it, and try to change your intention to hitting it off the high and off the heel. And that will move the strike more in the center of the face. And you just keep doing that until you actually start hitting it high on the heel, and then you can go back to trying to hit in the center of the face again. So someone asked, how can I improve smash factor? How can I improve smash factor? So the way you improve smash factor is by improving your contact. So you either need to be making ball first contact or hitting it in the center of the face. Those are really the two main things. So ball first contact. So meaning if you're hitting the ground before the golf ball, then the ground's eating up a lot of that energy. So let's backtrack a little bit for those who may not be familiar with what that is. So smash factor is the ratio of your ball speed to your club head speed, right? And it's essentially how efficiently you're hitting the golf ball, right? So for a driver, an average tour player is going to have a smash factor about 1.49. About the best you can do with a driver is about 1.5. So, for example, that would mean if you're swinging your driver 100 miles per hour, about the best smash factor you're going to get is about 1.5, which would mean that your ball speed, the best ball speed you can get, would be about 150 miles per hour with a 100 mile per hour swing, right? Now, as the lofts get higher, right, that smash factor goes down because if you think about it, with a wedge, right, I'm not going to get as high of a smash factor because I'm hitting it with almost like a glancing blow, right, because of the loft, which is fine. We don't want to have the same smash factor with our wedges because then we'll hit them just as far as our driver. We want to take speed out of it. We want lower smash factor with our wedges so we can get spin and things like that. So, but anyway, it's just a matter of how well you're transferring their energy to the golf ball. So if you're hitting the ground before the golf ball, that'd be number one, right? Doesn't apply to everybody, but I'd say if you're struggling with your smash factor and you're hitting the ground before the golf ball, that would be a large reason as to why, or the main reason, because when you hit the ground before the golf ball, the ground's eating up all the energy of the club and it slows down the club a ton, and then you're not transferring that energy to the golf ball, right? So that'd be number one. Number two would be hitting it in the center of the face, right? So if you're making ball first contact, but you're hitting it off the toe, off the heel, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but essentially, when you hit the ball on the toe, the face will twist, right? And that twisting of the face doesn't transfer as much energy to the golf ball. If you hit the ball off the heel, the face will twist. And again, you're not going to transfer as much energy to the golf ball. But you hit the ball in the center of the club face, the face will not twist, and it will transfer that energy to the golf ball. So that would be number two on the list. And then number three on the list would be shaft lean, right? So remember what we talked about earlier with the driver, there's not a lot of loft on there. So you're transferring a lot of energy to the golf ball. With a wedge, with more loft, you're hitting it with more of a glancing blow. So you're not going to transfer as much energy to the golf ball. And that's by design, right? But if you're coming into contact, let's say you're hitting a 7-iron, right? And you're coming into contact and you don't have any shaft lean at contact, well, that is going to add loft, right? And you're not going to transfer as much energy to the golf ball. So shaft lean would be another piece that would help you to have smash factor. Now, I see a lot of people, a lot of recreational golfers, they're obsessed with shaft lean. And rightfully so, because we talk about it endlessly, because that's what people want to hear about, right? We talk about it a lot because that's what people are interested in. And we got to keep your interest, right? But the reality is that most golfers who struggle with smash factor, shaft leans could definitely be part of it, and usually is part of it. But the main reasons are the first two that I talked about: inability to make ball first contact and inability to hit the ball in the center of the face. So before you work on any shaft lean, I would be looking at those two pieces, because you can have all the shaft lean you want in the world. You could have you could have a wedge and take all the loft off his face, but if you don't hit the ball first or hit the ball in the center of the face, that smash factor is going to be junk, right? Not only that, you're not going to hit the ball very, very good, right? So focus on ball first contact, focus on center face contact. Those would be two first. You're doing those well. If your smash factor is not good and you're making ball first contact and you're hitting in the center of the face, then the reason why your smash factor isn't good is because of shaft lean. And at that point, I would say, okay, yeah, let's get some shaft lean. Let's start compressing the ball a little bit more. All right, let's keep going. So Dan S says, my pattern is changing, sometimes low to sometime top center or somewhere in between, not just toe shots. So like I said, it's hard to say without seeing your swing. If I had to guess, if you're inconsistent with where your strike is, it's either the path of the club is way off, or you are your stable foot spine may be off. If you're moving your spine around everywhere, it just gets very difficult to be consistent with your strike. So those would be the things that I'd be looking at. The path of the club, too much from the inside, too much from the outside, and having to make compensations at the last second that make it difficult, and or your spine angles, which those can work together, right? If my spine angle is too much this way, I'm going to tend to come down steep. My spine angle is too much this way, I'm going to tend to swing too much from the inside. But if it's moving all over the place, it just makes it very difficult. So those would be the things that I'd be looking at. All right, keep the questions coming. And like I said, we got about 10 minutes left here. So, but like I said, if you're interested in doing unlimited swing reviews with me, you do not have to have Facebook to do unlimited swing reviews. It's all through an app. I do have one spot available right now. So if anybody would like to work with me, I think there's a couple other instructors that have spots available too, I believe. Let me double check that. And again, like I said, I'm not going to be offended. I know that I'm not probably everybody's cup of tea, which is fine. Yeah, so I have one spot, excuse me. Robin's got a couple spots, and Chris has got a spot. Yeah, so there's some, if you're wanting online lessons, it's not always the case, especially this time of year where you can jump on and work with an instructor. So good opportunity right now to be able to do that. All right, so let's keep going here. All right, how do you get the hands in front of the ball at impact? Well, first let's think about why that's even important to begin with, right? Why do we want to get the hands in front of the ball? Well, if I get my hands in front of the ball, I'm going to be de-lofting this face, which is going to allow me to compress the ball more. I'm going to be able to hit the ball farther when I do that. And I'm also, my face is going to be more stable when this happens. Because if you think about it this way, if you're backing up a trailer versus pulling a trailer, right? If you're pulling a trailer, meaning the force, the truck, is leading the mass, the trailer, that's going to be a lot more stable. The trailer is just going to follow right in line with the truck, right? And that's the same thing that's happening in the golf swing. If my force, my hands, is leading the club head, the mass, right, then it's going to be a lot more stable. Whereas if it's the other way around, if I'm backing up a trailer, right, meaning the mass is leading the force, things are going to be a lot less stable, right? If you imagine backing up a trailer and trying to get it up to like full speed on the interstate. Like you're not going to get very far before that trailer whips around, right? Because it's just not very stable. And the same thing is kind of happening in the golf swing. If I get my hand or my club head, my mass too far out in front, things just aren't going to be stable with the club head. So there's lots and lots of other reasons why we want to have the hands in front of the ball at impact, but those would be two main things. It's the stability and then the compression that you're going to get, the added distance that you're going to get from doing that. So what's happening when we're not doing that, right? Well, what's typically happening is our hips are not rotating, right? So the body stalls. I come up out of my posture and my arms throw in front of my body, right? So that's what's happening when I'm not getting shaffling, when I'm not getting the hands in front of the ball at impact. So the way that the club is getting to the ball is basically all my arms and my wrist, right? So if I want to change that, then I have to get the club to the ball in a different way. I have to get the club to the ball more with the rotation and opening of my body and a lot less than with the arms. So I think a great way to learn how to do this or to get some great feedback, and this is something I do often with students, is to do what's called a stick drill. So all you need to do with this stick drill is have an alignment stick. And if you don't have an alignment stick, you can pick one up at any home improvement store. It's a couple dollars. Very, very good investment for the kind of drills and things you can do with it. Very, very versatile for training the golf swing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this alignment stick and I'm going to put half of it through the end of this club and half of it going down the shaft. And the easiest thing I think is to just kind of grip it on the bottom here, the bottom of the grip underneath the fingers. I think that's the most comfortable place to hold it. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to have this on this side of my body. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me feedback on whether I'm using too much of my arms and my wrists in the swing. You see, if I throw my arms and my wrists in front of my body, then this stick is going to come in and it's going to hit me in the side, right? Sometimes some people call this like the rib cracker drill or rib tickler, right? So what I want to do is I want to get here and I want to imagine my chest or the opening of my body is bringing this club to the ball, right? So the opening of my body here is what's bringing the club to the ball. And if my body opens up, right, then that's going to allow me to get my hands in front of the ball without this stick touching me. So what's happening there? Well, if I'm not swinging my arms in front of my body, right, then my lead arm is staying closer to my chest. So I want to feel almost like my lead arm is in my chest here. And then what's happening with my trail arm? Well, my trail arm isn't throwing the club, right? It's going to be more bent as I'm coming through, right? It's going to be, I'm here and it's going to be more bent as I'm coming through. If I'm releasing at the ball, I'm not getting my hands in front of the ball, my trail arm is straightening out at the ball and my wrist is straightening out too, right? So that's what I want to feel with my arms and my wrist as I'm coming through here. Lead arm kind of pinned to the chest and trail arm bent, trail wrist bent back. And that's in the rotation of my body is getting things in front. So a big mistake that I see people make trying to do this drill is they just go straight to really fast full swings with the ball and they really struggle with it and they get frustrated, right? So what we need to do is, because the reality is if we can't do this in a little chip shot, it ain't happening in a full swing, right? So what I like to see players do is I like to start out just hitting some little chip shots, just getting this club back here and then feeling like it doesn't come any closer to you, right? Or the stick doesn't get any closer to you. And in order to do that, I've got to lower down into the ground and I've got to rotate my body, right? So basically I feel like I brought the club here and that's only the rotation of my body that gets the club to the ball. Learn to hit the ball doing that and then you can gradually build it up. So kind of like a little half swing, even like a quarter swing, like little chip, and then build that up to where it's kind of like basically full speed at how fast you would hit a chip. And then you can build that up to almost like a little pitch shot, just a little pitch shot doing the same thing. And then you can build that up to like a 3/4 swing. And then you can build that up to a full swing. So that'd be the idea of how you would work through getting the hands in front at impact. Now, the idea here is using feedback, right? I would always use that feedback. Another mistake that I see people make with that drill is they do a couple of swings with the stick, they take it away, and then they feel like something magic's going to happen. It's just not. You have to be able to make a swing with the stick before you can expect to be able to make it without it, right? So get to where you can do it really good and comfortably with the stick, and then you can remove the stick. But when you remove the stick, you got to almost pretend like it's still there, right? Because if you just go back to what you did before, you're going to do what you did before. You got to implement the same thing, the same feelings that you had with the stick when you remove it. So try that drill. Start out with shorter, slower swings. And you'll be really surprised at how solid you can hit that ball when you're doing that, when you get the hands in front. All right, so keep up the hard work, but that'd be a great drill to help you to get the hands in front, a good starter drill to get you started on doing that. All right, so we got maybe 2 minutes left if we have one more question. If not, we'll wrap up. No big deal. We'll head into the weekend. So Kyle R says, so handle always beats the club head to the ball. Yeah, ideally. There might be some situations where you'd want the club head to kind of, release under the hand. So maybe like a bunker shot that you're trying to get up in the air a little bit more, or maybe like a flop shot, something like that. But generally, if you're wanting to, most of your shots, you want to have your hands in front of the ball. And this is what the straight line release is in the Tasman Golf system. So when we talk about the straight line release, we're talking about where this club, if you imagine where this club is splitting my forearms, right? So right there, it's splitting my forearms. When we look at the best players, where that club is splitting the forearms is about 45 degrees out in front. So if you were to draw a 45-degree angle from the club to the ground, that would be where we'd see most of, the better ball strikers out there. So if I were to rewind this position to impact, that would be about right here. So my hands are in front, then the club releases out in front. When we look at a lot of recreational golfers, a lot of golfers that maybe struggle with contact, getting a lot of compression on the ball, things like that, we're seeing this club releasing, at the ball or just after the ball. And if we rewind that, to contact, that's where the hands are not really in front of the ball very much. So you're not going to have that compression, that face stability, a lot of other things that I was talking about. So basically the top speed golf system is to get you to that point, right? We work through our stable fluid spine. We have to have the proper spine angles to be able to do that, right? If you imagine this, if my spine is tilted this way, it's going to be very difficult for me to release the club out here, right? I need to have my spine angle more angled away as I'm coming through to be able to release that out in front. It'd be just like if you were throwing a ball. If you're throwing a ball, if you're kind of going a sidearm with the ball, you would kind of angle your body away like this. You wouldn't get like this and then throw a ball that way, right? So our spine angles are very, very important for that, right? I talked earlier about rushing the downswing, right? If people don't get a full turn of their body, they'll tend to rush the downswing. You rush the downswing, you're going to tend to release the club early and not get the hands in front. So the power turn's a big part of it. Lag, right? If I'm up at the top of the swing, I'm trying to get this club to the ball as quickly as possible, and I release that club basically from the top of the swing. I don't get this club lagging behind me. It's going to be very, very difficult to get the hands in front, right? We want to have the sensation that we're throwing this club out in front, not throwing it down at the ball, right? So that's a big part of it. Our compression line, the line that goes from our lead ankle, lead hip, lead shoulder, right, at impact. I want to have that nice in a straight line. If I have my hips bumping forward, then my body stalls and I'm going to tend to release the club early, right? I want to have my body continuing to open up so that I can get everything releasing out in front. So every piece of the top speed golf system goes into this. And then the straight line release, once we get there, that's where we train it directly, right? But every piece leading up to the straight line release helps you to get there as well. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here on Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all next time.